At low altitude above the Strait of Hormuz, an aircraft that should have been retired is circling over one of the most dangerous waterways on Earth. Below it, the picture is not clean. Commercial tankers, patrol craft, fishing vessels, small boats moving fast between bigger hulls, radar tracks appearing and disappearing. A threat that can vanish behind a civilian ship in seconds. A stealth fighter can cross this airspace in a blur. A bomber can strike from far away. A drone can watch, but this aircraft does something different. It stays, it slows down, it turns, it looks again, and the pilot, inside that titanium cockpit, has time to make the one decision that matters most in close air support. Is this the enemy? And can I strike without putting friendly forces or civilians in danger? For years, the US Air Force wanted the A-10 Warthog gone. Not once, not casually, again and again, budget after budget. The argument was the same. Too old, too slow, too vulnerable, too expensive to maintain in a future built around stealth and networks. And yet, in 2026, the aircraft that was supposed to be fading into history was suddenly operating in a live combat environment, connected to modern data networks, using updated weapons, and proving that one mission in modern war is still brutally difficult to replace. This is not just the story of an old airplane surviving retirement. This is the story of a weapon system that forced the US military to confront an uncomfortable question. What if the future of war still needs something slow? Armored, persistent, and close enough to understand the fight. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why the A-10 keeps surviving every attempt to bury it, and why the aircraft most likely to replace its role may not look like a traditional airplane at all. To understand the A-10, do not begin with the aircraft. Begin with a soldier on the ground. Call him Sergeant Miller. He is not thinking about defense budgets. He is not thinking about aircraft generations. He does not care if the jet overhead is elegant and stealthy or politically convenient. He is pinned down. His unit is taking fire. Smoke is drifting across the street. The enemy is close enough that every weapon released from the air must be deliberate, controlled, and precise. One bad call can save one group and kill another. He speaks into the radio. And what he needs is not an aircraft that can win an airshow argument. He needs a pilot who can stay, communicate, confirm, and strike only when the picture is clear. That is the emotional center of the A-10 debate. Close air support is not just dropping a bomb near friendly troops. It is judgment under pressure. It is restraint and violence in the same moment. It is the difference between air power as a concept and air power as a promise. And for decades, when American troops heard the rough shape of a warthog circling overhead, many of them felt something no spreadsheet can fully measure. The sky had not abandoned them. The A-10 was not built around radar. It was not built around stealth. It was not even built around speed. It was built around a gun. The GAU-8/A Avenger is a 7-barrel, 30mm rotary cannon capable of firing about 3,900 rounds per minute. The weapon is so large that the aircraft was essentially designed around it. The cannon sits along the center line. The landing gear is offset. The nose, the structure, the balance of the aircraft, everything bends around this one brutal idea. This is why the Warthog looks strange. It is not ugly by accident. It is ugly because every line serves a combat purpose. To understand the scale, picture the cannon next to a person. Picture the shells. Picture the nose gear offset. The visual message is simple. This is not a jet that carries a gun. This is a gun that learned how to fly. But the A-10's real genius was never only firepower. It was survivability. The pilot sits inside a titanium armor shell, often called the bathtub. The engines are mounted high and separated at the rear. The aircraft has redundant systems, manual backup flight controls, and a design philosophy that assumes the jet will be hit and must still bring the pilot home. That is what made the A-10 different. It was designed for the ugliest part of air combat, the place close enough to the ground that everything can shoot back. Before we go into the political war that almost killed the Warthog, subscribe to Aeropedia if you want military aviation stories told like real stories, with the machines, the missions, and the people who depended on them.
Speed left turn heading 240.
Passing 3000 left 240 km.
Now here is where the story gets uncomfortable for the Air Force. The Air Force had a serious argument against the A-10, And to be fair, it was not a stupid argument. The Warthog is slow, it is not stealthy, it was not designed to penetrate the most advanced air defense networks on Earth. In a war against a peer adversary, with modern surface-to-air missiles, fighter patrols, radars, and electronic warfare, the A-10 would not simply fly wherever it wanted. So Air Force leaders wanted to move money, pilots, maintainers, and attention toward newer platforms. The F-35, the F-15EX, future collaborative combat aircraft, systems built for the air war of tomorrow. On paper, that modernization argument makes sense. But war has a nasty habit of humiliating perfect PowerPoint slides. For years, lawmakers repeatedly blocked or slowed A-10 retirements. The fight appeared across multiple budget cycles. In the mid-2000s, Congress stopped attempts to divest the whole fleet. In later years, it blocked or limited further cuts. And in the fiscal 2026 fight, the Air Force wanted to retire all 162 remaining A-10s. But Congress moved to limit that to 59, preserving more than 100 Warthogs. That decision did something important. It did not just keep old airplanes on ramps. It forced the military to answer a new question. If the A-10 is staying, how do we make it useful in 2026? The answer was not nostalgia. The answer was modernization. The biggest mistake in telling the 2026 A-10 story is to describe Link 16 like a manual. So do not think of it as a data link. Think of it as 30 extra seconds of knowing. Old version, an A-10 pilot is orbiting above a combat zone. He can see what is below him. He can hear radio calls. He can search with his targeting pod. But somewhere, 12 miles away, a Navy ship has detected a small craft moving fast along the edge of the battle space. That information has to be passed, confirmed, translated, and acted on. In a fast-moving fight, 30 seconds can feel like forever. New version, the same pilot in the same orbit, now receives a shared tactical picture. A track appears. A threat is detected before it is visible to the naked eye. The pilot adjusts the orbit. The aircraft is already pointing toward the problem before the problem becomes obvious. That is what modern connectivity does for an old close air support platform. It does not make the A-10 stealthy. It does not make it fast. It does something more useful for this mission. It helps the pilot know sooner, and knowing sooner matters because close air support is often a race against confusion. Modern targeting pods give the pilot sharper eyes at night through smoke, haze, dust, and bad weather. Precision-guided weapons give the aircraft options beyond the cannon. Laser-guided rockets, JDAMs, Mavericks, and other air-to-surface weapons let the Warthog choose the tool that fits the target, the rules of engagement, and the friendly forces nearby. There were also practical adaptations that matter more than they sound. Aerial refueling compatibility and mission support improvements can extend the time an aircraft remains available. And in close air support, fuel is not just fuel. Fuel is time. Time overhead. Time to wait. Time to make a second pass. Time to prevent a mistake. The 2026 A-10 is not a new aircraft. It is something stranger. A 1970s battlefield philosophy connected to a 21st century combat network. The proof did not come from a conference room. It came from combat. In 2026, A-10 Warthogs were reported operating in the Middle East as part of Operation Epic Fury, including missions connected to the Strait of Hormuz. And that location matters because the Strait is not just water on a map. It is one of the most strategically important choke points on Earth. Now imagine the mission from the cockpit. The radar picture is messy. Below you are commercial tankers, fishing boats, patrol craft, civilian ferries, and fast-moving small craft. Everything is moving. Everything creates heat. Everything can be misread if the pilot rushes. A high-speed jet can be devastating, but speed is not always the answer. If the target is small, maneuvering, and close to civilian vessels, the pilot may need time to classify it, time to watch it, time to wait until it separates from the wrong hull, time to avoid turning a tactical success into a strategic disaster. That is where the A-10 becomes dangerous in a way that is easy to underestimate. It can slow down, it can stay, it can make multiple passes, it can descend, observe, confirm, and choose between cannon, rockets, or precision-guided weapons based on the moment in front of the pilot. In this kind of environment, Persistence is not a weakness, it is the weapon, and that is the irony of the Warthog in 2026. The same qualities critics often point to: slow speed, low altitude operation, old school visual confirmation, and long loiter time can become strengths when the mission is not to rush through the airspace, but to understand it. Against fast attack boats, the A-10 was not acting like a museum piece. It was acting like a specialist. And specialists survive because they do something the generalists struggle to do as naturally. This is the point where the video should not overclaim. The A-10 is not invincible. It cannot simply ignore air defenses. But in the right airspace, with the right support, against the right targets, it can still deliver a kind of controlled violence that remains hard to replicate. This is where the debate usually gets stupid. People turned it into A-10 versus F-35 as if one aircraft has to humiliate the other. That is the wrong framing. The F-35 is one of the most advanced combat aircraft ever built. It brings stealth, sensor fusion, electronic warfare, networked awareness, and the ability to operate in environments where the A-10 would need serious protection. In the opening phase of a high-end war, the F-35 can do things the Warthog was never designed to do, but the A-10 was not designed to be an F-35. It was designed for the ugly minutes after a ground unit calls for help, and the situation is changing faster than a staff officer can brief it. The F-35 is a spear tip. The A-10 is a shield with teeth. One is built to penetrate and connect. The other is built to stay close and protect. One looks forward into the most advanced air battle. The other looks downward at the human beings fighting on the ground. That is why the replacement question is so difficult. You can replace an airframe, you can replace weapons, you can replace sensors, but replacing trust is harder, and that is why the A-10 keeps returning to the center of the argument. Now, here is the hard truth that every serious A-10 defender has to admit. The Warthog is not magic. In a dense, modern air defense environment, against advanced surface-to-air missiles, fighters, radar networks, and electronic warfare, the A-10 would need protection. It would need suppression of enemy air defenses. It would need air superiority, or at least carefully managed risk. It would need a mission plan built around reality, not nostalgia. That does not make the aircraft useless. It makes the aircraft specialized. The A-10 may not be the jet you send first into the most defended airspace on Earth, but once the air picture is shaped, once corridors are opened, once troops or ships need persistent support, the Warthog still offers something rare. A pilot close enough to see, tough enough to stay, and armed enough to change the fight. So the real question is not, can the A-10 do everything? It cannot. The real question is, what platform does this exact mission better right now with the same trust from the people who call for help? That question is why the A-10 remains so hard to retire. The deeper lesson of the A-10 is bigger than the A-10. Modern warfare keeps teaching the same uncomfortable lesson. A platform is not obsolete because it is old. It is obsolete when it no longer solves a real battlefield problem. The B-52 is old, yet with modern weapons and upgrades, it remains relevant. Helicopters designed decades ago still matter because the mission still exists. Ships, bombers, transports, and attack aircraft can gain new life when they are connected to modern sensors, modern weapons, and a doctrine that understands what they are actually good at. That is what happened to the A-10. It did not become the future of stealth. It did not become the future of air superiority. It became a reminder that future wars are not fought by one perfect platform. They are fought by ecosystems of tools. Some new, some old, some beautiful, some ugly, some designed for the clean air war, and some built for the moment everything becomes dirty and close. And the dirty, close fight is exactly where the A-10 earned its legend. The A-10 Warthog was supposed to be fading into history. Instead, in 2026, it was still flying, still adapting, still connected to modern networks, still operating in a critical theater, and still reminding the world why close air support has a human center, a pilot, a radio call, a unit in trouble, an aircraft that comes low, stays long, and hits hard. Eventually, the Warthog will retire. No aircraft flies forever. Metal ages, maintenance costs rise, new threats appear, new systems take over. But the real question is not whether the A-10 survives forever. It will not. The real question is whether the military can replace what it represents. Can a future aircraft, drone, or autonomous wingman stay overhead, communicate clearly, survive close to danger, and earn the trust of troops who may have only seconds to live? That is the standard. Not marketing, not speed, not stealth alone. Trust. And here is the question. The A-10 story forces us to ask about every platform that comes next. The F-47, collaborative combat aircraft, loyal wingmen, and autonomous systems being developed right now. Can any of them earn what the Warthog earned? Not the performance numbers, not the sensor specs, the trust. We will explore that in the next Aeropedia episode, because the platform most likely to replace the A-10's role may not look like an aircraft at all. If this story gave you a new respect for the Warthog, subscribe to Aeropedia. We cover the aircraft, missions, and hidden decisions that shape modern air power. And tell us in the comments, should the A-10 keep flying, or is it finally time to let the Warthog go? Because you can retire an aircraft, but it is much harder to retire a promise.